This was changed. This fallen person now no longer could do this and was polarized, making the divine principle of life separate in two distinct bodies, which under parthenogenesis it had been one body containing both sexual attributes. Now these two separations were called male and female, and the new and lesser creature was now called human. Now called human. I now quote again, going back to the biblical scholars, in Genesis 1st and 2nd chapter, and it came to pass, this means obviously after some time had passed, when man began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born unto them, that the sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were fair, and they took of them wives of all which they chose, and there was born to them mighty men, and there were giants in the earth. Now what do we have here? If there's any logic that can be made out of those phrases in the Bible, obviously a primordial race of people, mainly man, born of God, came in unto men who had produced offsprings that were not like them, and since these sons of God had no women with them, had left their women folk home and no women were amongst them, they then went amongst these people that were called created humans, took the women, made love to the women, and there were born to them something that was part man and something that was part God, if you would. It was a different type of an offspring. Since, again, these earth women were different from the sons of God that came in unto them, many of them, in bearing these children, suffered mightily, and also wondered at what kind of creation was now coming out of their womb. It was interesting that seemingly the first production here, as we'll get more into that tomorrow afternoon, were all females. And later on, some males were born, and because they were, shall we say, scarce, they actually had to fight their way into the earth, and they had to fight hard to repropagate their kind. They even had to result to what was called circumcision. Not making sense yet? It will. It is now found that a male has reproductive organs called phallus or penix, prostate, testes, and scrotum. The female has reproductive organs called clitoris and ovaries, uterus, and womb, and sometimes has been referred to as womb man. We find that the female fallopian tubes, supposed to be named after a guy named Fallopius in 1523, resembles very closely the male vas deferens. And the male prostate gland resembles very much an atrophied or shrunken female womb or uterus. Every male has the rudimentary mammary glands of the female, and at times can actually produce milk, and if necessary, as some of the African tribes were shown to, can even suckle a child, per se. We also find that the what is called bulbourethra glands, for any of you doing in the pre-med or looking up again, per se, if you're nurses or doctors again, that those glands of the male are equal to the larger so-called vestibular glands in woman herself. When we look even further, we begin to see some really way out but interesting things which show that at one time there might have been a throwback here, that everything was not cut and dry as the sexes are now, everybody didn't look alike, and something also went on this planet that they've tried to hide, or seemingly have tried to mix people up in thinking that everybody is the same, and the big difference between male and female is great. It may not be as great as we think. We understand that the prostate gland is something that the male has that the female does not have. I looked up the word prostate, and I find it means literally to stand in front of. To stand in front of, prostate. When I look up the word prostrate, which many people kind of confuse the two. It means to lie flat with the head down. You prostrate yourself on the ground, or genuflect. It has nothing to do with prostate, which means, again, to stand in front of, or something that stands in front of something. We find that